Know that you are consumed by this thing. It can attach to you without even knowing, by certain circumstances, by certain traumatic events, by people saying things to you, by you listening to things, by you watching things that you watch, things that you listen to, gets into your spirit. I don't care who you are. I don't care how well you know the Bible. I don't care if you don't believe in the Bible. I don't care if you don't believe in God. You do believe in God. No matter who you are, any demon can attach itself to you if you're vulnerable. And you leave yourself vulnerable by not being aware, and by just really not even caring and being careful about what you pay attention to and what you listen to. You can be taught to be possessed and stuff, and by a negative spirit. For example, a religious spirit. People can be taught to have that religious spirit, and those who have it and act on that are not necessarily aware that they're really doing something demonic. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. There's a lot of times they're not. There's a lot of people who go through the acts of religion and are not even are aware that they're being possessed by the religious spirit, because it's something that's taught into them, so they've received it over and over again, sometimes for years, sometimes for decades, and it can consume them entirely. Best example, Roman Catholicism and the Catholic Church. Okay, yes, I said it. You cannot pray to Mary. That is necromancy. You cannot pray to Peter, James, Luke, Paul, whatever it is. You can't pray to them. It is necromancy. They are dead. They are not alive. The only alive one is Christ. He is the only alive and risen one. Sorry. Okay, just had to throw that out there. Anyway, so do you know how many people in the Catholic Church? That's why a lot of the things that happen in the Catholic Church has happened. So many of them are completely consumed by this, and it has created a religious spirit in them, and therefore they are operating in their entire religion under the spirit of fear, because they're afraid of certain things happening. They're afraid of, not repenting enough, not going to confession enough, not praying a certain number of times and stuff like that, and it's all very legalistic. And so their entire operation of the religion is under fear. So we're in part 2 of this, and it says, secondly, recognize that fear is a spirit. It is a demon spirit. Of course, we all recognize there are normal fears. There's fears of common sense. Okay, I say fears of common sense, normal fears. If you see traffic, okay, you see cars bumper to bumper, but still going down the road, like moving. If the traffic is heavy, you're not going to walk into a 4-lane thing of traffic. You're not going to just. Some people do that because they're stupid, but you're not going to just go out there when you know the car is right there. Like as soon as you step foot in it, the car is going to hit you. In the lane, it's going to hit you. If you know that's going to happen, like you see that and it's right there and you do it anyways, you're dumb. But most of us have common sense and do not see the traffic moving in such a heavy and rapid pace and say, okay, well, I'm just going to walk out there anyway. Most of us are not going to do that. Most of us have common sense. So, those are normal fears. Those fears of common sense, okay? If we are in a 12-story building, if we happen to go to the roof, okay, look over just for the view. Oh, it's beautiful. 90% of the time, I would say 90% of the time, we're not going to just, oh, okay, well, there's the edge of the building. Let me just keep walking. No. It's fear. Common sense. We know that if we walk off the building, we're not going to sprout wings and fly. It doesn't work like that. People have tried, and it doesn't work. So, fears like that, common sense. We're not going to just go out and do something like that. So, but then there's fears. Like I was saying, what my personal torment was fear of rejection, and fear of inadequacy, and fear of making mistakes and stuff, and because of the whole situation with the church I was explaining to you in the last video. If you don't know, watch the last video. I realized that I accidentally did not post it on the Revelations of God page for Facebook. So if you're on my Facebook page, it's probably on my primary page, the video. So I went through that, okay, and it's because I grew up with that. I was taught that, by what I saw and by the circumstances that I experienced. I taught myself that I cannot talk to Christian people. To this day, I have a very hard time meeting and talking and getting acquainted with Christian fellowship and other Christian believers. I feel like I'm afraid that they are hypocrites, and I'm afraid of encountering one, and they go behind my back and say things about me, or they treat me like, I'm just this not good person. Like, I've had that happen a couple times, even this day. I try to be friendly with people. I'm a very open, outgoing person. I will walk up to you. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're black, white, green, purple, yellow. I don't care if you're gay, straight, 3 sheets to the wind, addicted, whatever. I don't care who you are. I don't care what's going on with you. I'm going to walk up to you and I'm going to be friendly with you. And male or female doesn't make a difference. Transgender, male, transgender, female, I don't care who you are. I'm going to walk up and I'm going to be friendly to you. That's the way I am. I've always been like that. But a lot of people are not used to that. So 90% of the time when I go up and I'm friendly and I'm openly friendly with someone, especially in the church, I'm so much more cautious about this in the church, because I still encounter, and less often it's an entire church like I encountered when I was younger. There's more often not like 1 or 2 people that misconstrue my friendliness. I was trying to think of the word. They kind of twist it, and then say, oh, she's trying to build, trying to be romantic with me or whatever, and then it's, whatever. A lot of times, I don't know, it's just because I'm coming up and be friendly with you does not mean I'm trying to be in a relationship with you. I don't think so. No. I already have the ones that are trying to talk to me that I don't want to deal with sometimes. That I don't just jump into a relationship. I have to know who you are. I look at a person's heart. So if I don't know what your heart is like, it's not likely that I'm going to get in a relationship with you. So this bondage is something that keeps you day to day, in and out. It creates anxiety. It creates depression. And it creates disorders of all types. Okay, being bound by fear creates mental health disorders. It creates physical disorders of like eating. Both bulimia and anorexia are created by fear. The body dysmorphia is created by fear. Just all of that, all things like that are created by the spirit of fear, and it affects people majorly, big time. Okay, fear, demonic spirits of any type, whether it be fear or anything else, are the only type of thing that can enter you knowingly and unknowingly and create physical problems in your life. That's the only thing that can enter you and create physical problems. And that's the only spiritual thing that can enter you and create physical problems. If you are going through any of that, depression, anxiety, any doubt of your self-worth, any dysmorphia of any kind about your body, any disassociation about who you are physically, it is 90% of the time, actually I would say 98% of the time, created by a fear of some type. I don't have any other personal examples except for my own to testify about that. And believe me, homosexuality, any sexual type of dysmorphia, or sexuality type of dysmorphia is definitely created by a spirit of fear. And that is probably the biggest one that is out there today, and all of all these years. Okay, so it creates torments and it creates bondage, and so it affects every aspect of your body. Believe me, it affects every aspect of your body. It affects how you think about yourself. It affects how you think about others. It affects how you react to others. Mine definitely does. Even now, I've been delivered a lot from it. I've only had one person from the past apologize to me. And that brought me so much healing. And I spent so much time in tears after that, because I thought so many things. I'm like, this person's never going to look back and even realize what they did, you know? So for them to come back and apologize to me, that was like mind-blowing, and I just melted. I melted. And I know that brought a lot of healing to myself, and I was like, you know, wow. You know, I spent time with God with that, because that's the only person that can really bring about those types of things, that can deliver you and from those torments. And to take that to God and just sit and dwell in that has brought so much good for me. So in 2 Timothy 1:7, it says, God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of love, power, and of sound mind. Now, we have the power over fear. Okay? And if you don't feel like you have the power over fear, guess what? God does. Okay? Let me finish the rest of this part, and I'm going to elaborate more on this. Okay? So a person can be demon possessed or demon oppressed, which is where the demon possesses you. Not like internally, but it torments you by external things and stuff like that, and follows you, and that's definitely a case. It can do that internally and externally, and create things, you know, internally spiritually, but externally physically, and in your surroundings and in your atmosphere. It can affect all of that. Believe me. Okay? That demon fear has to bow down to the mighty name of Jesus Christ as you resist it. Steadfast in the faith. That's 1 Peter 5:9. Now, here we go. Let me go back to this. Anything against yourself, okay? Anything against yourself in a negative aspect. So if it's against yourself, then it's most likely negative. Okay? Anything that in the negative aspect, denial that something is a possibility in your life is an aspect of fear. Okay? I never in my life thought that I would ever own my own home. And yet, you guys are watching me sit in my house, on my couch, the home that I own, that I paid for, that I bought, done. That never was a possibility to me before. Never once did it ever cross my mind that I ever owned my own home. I was like, man, I'm going to be renting forever. I'm like, I'm wasting so much time renting. I could have spent all this money buying a house, da 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 da. And, you know, through the circumstances of the past, my credit was ruined, but I'm working on that. But that even added to the mindset that I had about, oh, I'm never going to own my own home. I said one time to God himself, God, I feel like I'm never going to trust you to be my provider. I just don't see that happening. I don't see myself having the ability to completely rely and rest on you and trust in you. I'm going to be working for the rest of my life. I even said it to a friend of mine. I said, I'm going to be working for the rest of my life. I didn't tell her the whole God part and stuff, because we have different mindsets about that right now. But I told her that. I said, I'm going to be working for the rest of my life. I'm going to better get rich quick if I expect... excuse me. I said I better get rich quick if I expect to be able to stop working at all and, just be able to relax for once. And I always had that mindset. And when I hear God supernaturally providing for other people, I always said, that's never going to happen to me. That is a spirit of fear. That right there is a spirit of fear. The mindset that I had, oh, that's never going to happen for me, came directly from the spirit of fear. So much so that I would have panic attacks if I ever went without a job. Excuse me, there was one time in my life, where I did not have a job. And I couldn't find a job for anything. I went 6 months. And I said, you know what? I am sick and tired of this. And I started working for myself. And I created my own job with the help and aid of one of the church members I had at the time who needed help with her grandfather. And I started there, and it spiraled. And it got bigger and bigger and bigger. And for 12 years, okay, I wasn't taking care of that same person for 12 years because God rest his soul, passed away. But for 12 years, totally, from the time that I started with her to the time 12 years hit, I was self-employed simply by word of mouth because of how I care for others and how I care for their things better than my own. I can care for somebody else's house. I can come to your house and have your house perfectly organized and spotless. But I am not going to turn around this camera so you guys can see how disorganized my house is. Not dirty, it's just not organized. It's not organized. Because I would never, ever live in a dirty house. Disgusting. Ugh. I don't like smells. I don't like grime. I don't like where I don't feel comfortable, like, touching the floor in my house with my bare feet. If I can't take my shoes off and just put my feet on the bare, my house is dirty. And I don't like it, and I'm like, yeah, so I'm funny about the cleanliness part, so that's not an issue, but as far as, yeah, anyways, I'm not organized at all. At all. So, but anyways, like I said, I was self-employed for quite some time for that. That would turn out to be very good for me because I was in the healthcare industry after that, and I was very good at my job, and people loved me. I always had high recommendations from clients and their families, and people trying to say, hey, can you come outside the company hours and just come and just be with my family member? And I've had that happen so many times. So anyways, but I was freaking out that 6 months period when I was doing everything I possibly could to get money, to find money, like doing side things here and there, like trying to, back in the day, I was not aware of, this blood plasma thing, because I definitely would have done that. I do that sometimes and stuff. I like to help people. I think it's a good way to help people, and I do that, in support of those who are sick, who are ill, who have cancer and stuff like that. They definitely need, the plasma donations. So I was freaking out. I was with my mom at that time, and fortunately my mom was very gracious, and she helped me out at that time, and it was good because it was after I was going to Lion View Church, so I already had healed a lot of relationships with my mom, and that's a whole nother aspect in itself. But I was always fearful of that ever happening again. It never happened to me again. Never, ever, ever, ever have I ever gone a long period of time without a job. I've worked. I am used to working. I'm used to having a job. I'm used to busting my butt. I am not shy of getting my hands dirty. I don't care what kind of job it is. If you're going to hire me and give me a paycheck, I will do pretty much whatever you ask me to. If you're paying me a nice hourly wage and you want me to learn how to do something, I will learn how to do it. Give me hands-on experience, boom, I will master it within a week. Whatever it is you teach me to do. You know, the only thing I cannot master is one thing I'm not taught. But I guarantee you, if somebody taught me a different thing every week, by the end of the week I would have it mastered. Especially in a 40-hour period of time. You know, I am very, very, very good at learning how to do skills and stuff like that. And I'm good with my hands. And so that's why it was very easy. It's always very easy for me to keep a job. I'm not afraid to work at all. I'm probably one of the most dependable and reliable and, you know, relieves that my employers have. They loved having me at work. They knew I was coming today. Like, they were like, yes, okay. There's many times where I had bosses say, oh, you're coming in at such and such time, good. You're going to take care of this and this and this for me. You know, they would always have things to do hours before I even get there. And, you know, and there was times where like, oh, you're already here 30 minutes early? Boom, clock in, please. So, it's always been like that for me. So for me not to have a job was a very big, fearful thing for me. It's a very, very fearful thing. There was one point in time where I was in a relationship, that I was engaged to someone, and we had a baby, my youngest, and I didn't work for a year. Well, I can't say that. I didn't work while I was pregnant. It was high-risk pregnancy, so I was spending a lot of time in the doctor's office, and I didn't get a job. And the man I was with at the time was financially stable enough to support me and the family. But inevitably, I started working again almost right away. I started working from home. That's when I started taking care of my dad. My dad had dementia. He was sick and everything like that, and I took care of him all the way into the end. Get out of that. That's not yours. Sorry. Anyways, so this aspect of me not having a job is just completely unheard of, you know. And the first time that God showed me, you know, He showed me He could provide for me. As I look back at the things that has happened over the years, He basically trained me to show me that He can and will provide. Okay, the first thing was, okay, supernaturally, I got approved for a car loan on an income of $800 a month that I could prove. That's the only thing I could prove. And yet I got approved for the car loan. It is wild and crazy how that happened, but it did, and it's sustained me for quite some time. You know, and then years and years later, the other provision was I needed to get out of the house. I was breaking up with my fiance at the time. We were splitting up because, you know, it was a bad relationship. I'm not getting into details of that, but I needed to get out, and I needed to get out with me, my kids, and my dad in a wheelchair, bedbound, 100% relying on care, and God came through. 100%. Helped me move, helped me everything. Paid in full, completely, 100%. It was amazing. After that was when my life was put in danger. God provided for me then, when I didn't know I needed Him to. When I desperately needed Him to, but didn't know how I could ask Him. You know, I didn't know how I could ask God to help me out of a life or death situation like that, but like I was in when I described to you guys a few videos ago. But He supernaturally did, and He made the way, and He used Pharaoh's army to defend me against Pharaoh. Let's just say that. That's the best example I can give you. Okay? It's like Pharaoh's coming at me, full armor, full weapons, full gear, everything. And yet his army stopped, turned around, and started attacking him. That was the best example I could give to you know, give you an idea of what happened. So in all those aspects that He provided for me, why wouldn't He provide for me now? Okay? A few months ago, He asked me not to go back to work. A couple months ago. Because I knew before I left my job, my last job, that I had to leave, that I was going to have to leave because of family things. My daughter needed attention, and I was going to need to be home and available for her. And I was like thinking to myself, well, if I'm going to be home, you know, I don't know how I'm going to provide for my family, but I definitely can be there with them all the time now, and she's with me and everything like that. Our stuff is going to be paid for, but I'm not going to be able to afford anything extra. How am I going to be able to afford this and afford that and da-da-da? And it's crazy because, you know, God really pressed it on my heart not to go back to work. which, like I was explaining to you guys, it's completely unheard of for me just to willingly not go back to work. But the last time he showed me he could provide for me was just last year, before I came here. I was at home for almost a year, almost a full entire year before I even thought about going back to work at a job. I was working with the church and helping them in any possible way that I could, and I wanted to continue to do that. But one of the things that God put on my heart was this, to get on here, to share about myself, my stories, to take, I got permission from Pastor Leslie Hale years ago before he passed to take his notes and elaborate on his notes, elaborate on his teachings about this, and just make videos like this, like what I'm doing right now. I got permission from him years ago, but I was so fearful. I kept from doing it right away because I was fearful. I was afraid of the people at the church. I was afraid of his family. And this was before I even got to know, Ruth Ann and Ryan and stuff like that. And I found out, like, how wonderful they are. And it's like, they're nothing what I expected. They're nothing of what I expected from a Christian family like that, and such authority. I am grateful for that. There isn't a single bit of religiousness from that family. None. There isn't. And they are completely covered by God. God provides for them 100%. And it's really amazing. And something that is so inspirational, is their entire life. The whole family was provided for Leslie's entire life with them. God provided 100% of the time. And it's like mind-blowing. Anyways. So, denial that isn't even a possibility, that's a spirit of fear. Me denying following after what God asked me to do because I was afraid I wasn't going to have what I needed, that's a spirit of fear. And God broke that in me a couple of days ago before I started this. I was so fearful. And then I was fearful of poisoning people. Because if you are not walking with God and you try to minister, or you try to minister without the absence of God's direction, or with the absence of God's direction and guidance, and you try to do this as a gig or try to do it as a performance thing, trying to be in performance of others, God is not in that. God is not in being entertainment for other people. God is into teaching and education. God is into being enlightenment for other people. You don't have to be fancy. You don't have to be qualified by any human worldly standards. I certainly am not. Leslie Hale used to tell us all the time, he never went to Bible college. He was entirely led by God his entire life, his whole life. Every single substance of everything in his ministry was provided by God. Inspired, led, directed, and provided for by God himself. And the fact that I go to that church and I see that and how real it is, it's not imaginary. You can go and touch every aspect of that church, and God provided every inch of it. Every fiber of carpet, every turn of corner, every door, every knob, toilet paper holders and dispensers and soap and every aspect, toilets, tile, every aspect. When I say every single aspect, I said it again, every single aspect. And I still went to that church for years, and I said, that's never going to happen to me. I'm never going to be able to do it. I'm never going to be able to bring myself where I believe in God that much. I would love to. I wanted to. I tried to change my heart and my mind on my own. And even with all that experience I had up until that point, I couldn't. I couldn't completely change my heart. And that was a downfall for me. And I would ask God to say, please, God, change my heart. I wish I could see you that way, where you could be my complete provider. I wish that I could see you as my supplier, as my husbandman that gives me all that I need so I can do your will. And up until it was literally 3 days ago, okay, I'm texting Ruth Ann with a hole in my roof. Okay, this house, it's a trailer, if you're wondering. It's a trailer. So this just for start. So I'm texting Ruth Ann with a hole in my roof, and I'm not saying this to ask for help. If God himself does not guide you to send me anything, don't. I don't want it. And you're only going to hurt yourself. Okay? It has to be God guided. Has to be God directed. Everything from this has to be God directed. You know, except for the whole, like, you know, if you are getting ministered by this, you can send me something if you want. I'd prefer you send it to the church. I'll show you the address again on the back of this thing. That's my church. That's my place. You know, God will give me what I need while I'm doing this. I've never heard that before. That's what I was going to say. I would have never gotten to that point, but he broke it in me. You know what he did? He started several years ago. I said it was back in 2009. Telling me, remember, I hardened Pharaoh's heart. And when I first saw that, I was already mind blown. I was like, he controlled Pharaoh's heart just so he can prove himself mighty to the children of Israel in bondage. He hardened Pharaoh's heart. It says it. I can give you 6 verses right now. 1, Exodus 7:3. Yet I will harden Pharaoh's heart. There's a whole more to that, but I'm just getting to that part because that part is the most important. Exodus 9:12. But Adonai hardened the heart of Pharaoh. Exodus 10:1. Then Adonai said to Moses, go to Pharaoh because I have hardened his heart. Exodus 10:20. But Adonai hardened Pharaoh's heart. Exodus 10:27. But Adonai hardened Pharaoh's heart. Exodus 11:10. So Moses and Aaron did all these wonders before Pharaoh, yet Adonai hardened Pharaoh's heart. Why? God pointed that out to me, and he kept saying that to me over and over and over again. And I was like, yes, wow, you're control both aspects of the wheel. Now, the thing that I thought, you know, he controlled the heads and the tails of the point, I said yesterday. Now, internally, emotionally, in my own heart, in my mind, I said to myself, that is for other people to me. You know, he can change other people's heart towards me. He can change other people's view of me. He can change other people's mindset of me. He can turn someone who is against me towards me in favor of myself. He can do that. That's what I'm saying, right? But for myself, to myself, I said, I wish my heart could change towards God. I wish that I could get to the point where I could just completely put my hands up and just give everything over to God in his control. And then it happened. I'm about to get this job. I'm not going to say the place. A friend helped me line everything up. Interview set up. Background check set up. Like everything completely set up. All I had to do is say yes. And then I would have probably the easiest job next to driving that anybody can have. Shopping for other people. Who wouldn't love to get paid by the hour to shop for other people? I mean, how could that possibly be difficult? It's not. You grocery shop every couple days, right? Well, I would be grocery shopping every single day. For 8 hours, 9 hours at a time. Anyways, so I was about to accept this job, and then God started dealing with my heart, and he said, don't take the job. And I'm thinking, I'm like, this is crazy, because I have a hole in my roof. My house needs to be remodeled. Whoever remodeled it before, like, did a passive job, and so it's very basically done. It looks nice. It doesn't look horrible. I'm not saying that it's shoddy or anything like that, but you can tell it's done cheap. You know, it was done cheap. The shower is backwards and upside down, so it leaks all over the place. I have a huge hole in the roof over my daughter's bed. There's just so many things wrong with it. And I'm thinking, I could just go to work and pay for this all myself. It's not a big deal. And I was still thinking about it. But I still felt this in my heart that I needed to not take that job. And it's still pressing on me, and pressing on me, and pressing on me. And I'm thinking to myself, I really can't do this. I can't ignore the voice of God anymore. God called me to do something, and I can't do it. I can't bring myself to do what I want to do. I want to go get a job like I've had for years and provide for myself, and it would be sufficient. This job would be more than sufficient. And God said, don't take it. And I'm thinking, wow, am I supposed to get a new job? I'm like, what if I do this job instead? No, don't do it. And he's telling me that he is going to provide for me. He told me by taking my mind all the way back to the first provision, the first miraculous provision that he gave me. And I started thinking about that one, and the next one, and the next one, and the next one. And then all of a sudden I realized how many times he's supernaturally provided for me when I didn't even realize to the extent of his provision. And then he kept saying, I hardened Pharaoh's heart. And it started sinking in to me. Wow, God is completely in control. If he's telling me not to work because he wants me to sit here and do these videos, he's completely in control. And it started, I could feel the difference. Okay? It started not just being in my head, but it started being in my heart. And in my heart, I'm like, I can't go get this job. If I go get this job, sure, I can provide for everything I need, but at what expense? And then I started thinking about the expense. The expense would be that I completely miss God's provision. And I sat and I thought about that to myself. I said, I can't do that. I can't take I know God's voice. I've heard God's voice ever since I was a child. I've had regular conversations with God. Me talking to God like I'm talking to you all right now is a natural thing for me. I do it all the time, in the car, at my house. You know, sometimes my kids look at me like I'm crazy because it looks like I'm talking to myself. I'm not. I'm talking to God. I'm having a regular conversation with God. I can't take his voice for granted anymore. I know that he's the one guiding me because I know I know that this feeling has happened to me once before. So I sought wisdom, and I asked, somebody that I love very much, who has always been led by God that way. And I said, this is what I'm feeling. And I feel like God doesn't want me to go get the job. So they looked at me and they said, don't. You better listen then. He's telling you for a reason. Don't go get the job. And when that person finally said it, it kind of just gave me assurance. It gave me assurance because after I got that instruction, I had so much peace. And I said, that's exactly what I need to do. That is exactly what I need to do, is I need to listen to that because that is godly instruction and that is godly guidance. And I said, I'm not going to do it. And I said that to myself, I don't know how many times that night. Because they said, don't do it. And for the whole week, I've been sitting on that thought. And I said, I'm not going to do it. If she calls me for the job Thursday, because they were supposed to call me Thursday, today is Friday, and they were supposed to call me yesterday and get a call from the job. I'm sure they have my background back. I don't have any kind of criminal history to that extent, so there's no reason for them not to call me like that for the job. And they haven't called me. And if they call me this day after, my mind is already made up. I'm not going to take the job. I'm going to sit and do what God asked me to do. And my heart was completely changed from that decision. Because as it rained and poured and poured and poured on my roof, and this leak was slowly getting bigger and bigger and bigger, raining into my child's room on her bed. And I'm not even freaking out because I know the instruction that God has given me. He knows what I need to repair it. He's going to send me the person to do it for free, or he's going to send me the finances to hire a company to do it. It's going to happen. It has to. Because this is an instruction by God. And you know what's here's something that's proof. To me, it's proof. I take it as proof. So, I have dogs. And I said to God, I don't know how this provision thing works. Am I supposed to now get rid of my 2 dogs because I'm relying on you to provide for me? And is it not sensible to have enough for the dogs too? Should I just find another home for them or whatever? And I'm asking. And it's so funny because the next day that I asked that within myself to God, God provided for my dogs. Before he even provided for me, he provided for my dogs. And I'm like, and I'm sitting there in the room with them, you know, using the provision, and I'm looking at this and I'm like, wow, that was the answer to my question. I don't have to get rid of my dogs. God is my provider. God is big enough to provide for my dogs. He's going to provide for that hole in my roof. He can supernaturally divert the rain and the roof never even leaks anymore. He could do that if he wanted to. He's God. He's bigger than the rain. God is a big God. That's something Leslie always taught us about. God is a big God, and he's certainly bigger than the hole in my roof. And wow. It only took him over and over and over again to tell me, yet I hardened the heart of Pharaoh. He had to tell me that over and over and over again. Okay? Now, it's funny because in Exodus, with that story of his supernatural provision 10 times, the 10 plagues, you realize that the blood on the doorpost creates a very significant number in the scientific and mathematical community. Let me give you a wild guess of what that is. It sounds like something very delicious to eat. If you guys are educated or not educated, if you're educated, you probably already know what I'm talking about. If you're not, you're going to find out right now. The numerical number of pi. What is pi? Pi is the ratio circumference of any given circle. Okay? Of any given circle, to the diameter of that circle. So it's pi in the diameter of the circle. That's what it is. Okay, it is an infinite numerical sequence. Pi starts off as 3. Not a coincidence at all. 3 is God's number. Is a divine number of the Trinity. 3 and 1. Okay? And then it's followed by 0.1415. And the number goes on and on and on. It is an infinite number. There is no end to the numerical sequence of pi. It just keeps going. There is no finite number that can bring it to a conclusion. Okay? It just does not happen. You will never find 0 in the sequence of pi. Okay? Never. You know why that's so significant? Because Exodus 12:4. That is after you put the blood on the doorpost, so the angel of death shall pass over you. Okay? The angel of death passes over the children of Israel, those who abide in the ordinance. The ordinance of God is Exodus 12:24. Also, you are to observe this as an eternal ordinance for you and your children. That God passes you over for all of your sins, for all of your mistakes, for all of your inadequacies, for all of your imperfectness, for all the imperfect number of pi. It's not a perfect number. It's a never-ending number. You know why? Because God ordinance to us and promised to overlook us if we abide in the blood. Okay? The doorpost. This, and the top. Completely covered in the blood of a what? A lamb. A perfect lamb. A first year, unblemished, no broken bones, healthy, not sickly, perfect lamb. Which was the primary example of Christ's death on the cross for us. He is the perfect lamb. And when we accept him into our lives and are covered, then become covered by his blood, the sins that we have done and will create in the future are completely covered by the blood. Completely covered by the blood. You know, not to the extent that you can be careless. Because even at one point, God told me to straighten up. And I'll tell you guys about that another time. But I want to bring this to a conclusion for the moment, okay? Because then I will talk about the favor of God afterwards and what happens when you do get a chance to overcome the fear. If you have trouble overcoming the fear, turn to God. Okay? Turn to God. Because he can change you. He can change your heart. He can change your mindset. He can change every aspect of what you have as a core belief and bring you to the place where you know, okay? Children believe in Santa Claus and the fairy tales and the Easter Bunny and all that stuff, okay? As Christians, we have to get to the point where we first come to belief in God. Okay, I believe. That means I choose to acknowledge his existence, but I don't necessarily know him or know who he is. Okay, that's really what belief is. People are choosing to acknowledge the existence, but don't necessarily know who God is or anything about him. That's what happens first. But you can't stay in that forever. You have to get to the point where you are beyond belief of God. Where you know for a fact that God is. Okay? You have to get to the point where you know beyond anything anybody could ever tell you that God is. And I came to that conclusion years ago, even before he woke me up, told me I wasn't walking with him. I'll tell you guys about that's a testimony. That's another very shorter video. It's a testimony I will share at one time. At the moment, no, because I'm still trying to finish this because I still have. See all this blank stuff? This is more study, you know. So we're gonna be on this for a little bit. I have at least one. Oh, I have one more page. So maybe another video or two. Depends on how much elaboration he gives me. But learn to trust God. And if you don't, be honest with yourself in your heart and ask him to change you, because he will. He changed the heart of Pharaoh. He controlled every single time. He can certainly change your heart. Right now, as we speak, I am 2, maybe 3 days into the aspect of where I know that God's provision is coming. I don't have a single, I can't even entertain a thought of doubt. When it comes, it hits me like, okay, that doesn't make sense. Because if he provided for me at this and this time, it doesn't make sense for him to tell me to do this and then not provide for me now. He provided for my dogs, for crying out loud. Why would he not provide for me? He provided for my dogs. My dogs have no weight in what I'm doing. They don't. They're my dogs. And he provided for them. How much more is he going to provide for me because I'm doing what he told me to do? Even though I didn't want to. That's why I didn't. That's another reason why it took so long to get back into this. I didn't really want to do this. I didn't think that I was good enough. I didn't think that I was capable of giving something meaningful to people because I thought I was too messed up. Boy, did that thought go out the window. Anyways, like I said, I'm going to prepare for the rest of these notes. I'm going to flash these up to you one more time. Okay? This is what it is. I'm going to get a flyer from them so I can get the real address. The physical address. Because if you have never seen the Tabernacle in the Wilderness in Tarpon Springs, boy, you're missing out. You got to go there. Bring some cash, okay? Let me tell you. They're tourist free, but they operate on donations, and they need them. They're not a performance church. They're not going to tell you you have to bring more than, such and such amount. If you come and all you have is $1, do it. Do it. If you can't come and bring anything, guess what? Come anyways. Come with the heart of giving though. That'll bless you. I'm telling you that, not because they asked her to do it. She would probably not condone me trying to do any. I'm not doing any gimmick though. I'm telling you as personal experience that this place is amazing. This is not a gimmick from them. They did not tell me to come here and tell you to give them money. I'm telling you because the experience that you have right there is so incredible. It's so amazing. And it is so worth it. Every minute that you spend traveling here, every moment that you spend in that place, when you walk in, it'll hit you like a ton of bricks. The presence of God and how heavy it is in there, the education that you get from the experience there, the beauty of the Bibles, the beauty of the symbolism of the tabernacle. I just cannot, I can go on, but like I said, I'm about to wrap this up. So take God with you, okay? May the Lord shine his face upon you, cover you in his countenance, give you his peace. May he shine his favor upon you. I'm sure I said that backwards. But go with God. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Alright. Thank you